Hello guys, welcome back. So in my previous video, my part 4 video, I was talking about the two theories, but in this theory I was talking about the prophets as a unique feature in Israel. That was my part 3 video, and I was talking about how prophets evolved from the office of a seer and the main three features of prophets in Israel which made it unique, like Yahwehism, monotheism, and the Decalogue. Now in this part 4 video, I'm now talking about the prophetic calling, or 5 stages of prophetic calling. I'm going to look at the 5 stages of a person to be called by God. So we have the first stage. The first stage is called divine confrontation, but before we dive into divine confrontation, let's look at some basic notes. There are 5 stages in prophetic calling. Prophets were called to announce God's will to the people and as a man from his day-to-day duty. For example, Amos was a shepherd. So these prophets were not just prophets, they used to have their day-to-day duties. Like Amos was a shepherd. You can find that on Amos 1 verse 1. And also Moses was a shepherd. You can find that on Exodus chapter 3 verse 1. Now let's look into the 5 stages of prophetic calling, and the first stage is called divine confrontation or theophany. The first stage is called divine confrontation or theophany. Let's look at divine confrontation. This is when God reveals himself to the man a prophet to be. God can reveal himself through many ways like fire, wind, earthquakes, clouds, still voice, etc. In the case of Moses, he revealed himself through a burning bush. You can find that verse on Exodus chapter 3 verse 2. Now let's look at the second stage of prophetic calling, which is called denial of the prophets. Denial of the prophets. The person could be called and resist, giving reasons for trying to convince Yahweh and God of Israel. So in the second stage of prophetic calling, the prophet could deny or resist the calling, giving several reasons. In the case of Moses, he said he was a stammerer. You can find that verse on Exodus chapter 4 verse 10, when Moses said, I'm a stammerer. In the case of Isaiah, he said, my lips are unclean. That's Isaiah chapter 6 verse 5. In the case of Gideon, he said, my family is poor and I come from the lowest tribe of Israel. That is Judges chapter 6 verse 15. Now let's look at the third part, or the third prophetic calling, third stage of prophetic calling. In the second stage of prophetic calling, the prophet could resist or deny. But now let's look what happened in the third stage of prophetic calling. So the deity, remember we said the deity is just simply means God. Go and watch my part 1 video where I explain those type of words like deity. So the deity or God exerts pressure to the prophet to accept the call. So in this stage, God or the deity exerts just means to put pressure. So the God or the deity puts pressure to the prophets to accept. That pressure can be in the form of persuasion. God assured the doubting prophets guidance throughout, giving signs. For example, God changed Moses' rod into a serpent. You can find that verse on Moses chapter 4 verse 3. And in the case of Jeremiah, when he said, I'm just a youth, God put his words into Jeremiah's mouth. You can find that on Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 9. And in the case of Isaiah, when he said, my lips are unclean, God put what cause to clean the lips of Isaiah. That is Isaiah chapter 6 verse 7. That was the third part, where the God or the deed exerts pressure to the prophet. Now let's look at the fourth stage. The fourth stage is called acceptance of the prophet, whereby the prophet accepts the duty. after the signs, the prophet